Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Cosmic Classroom. We are going to discuss the aspects today, mostly the major ones, and I'm going to tell you why that is. And I'm going to be very honest. But we're going to go through how to find them in your chart and how you can kind of start depicting it on your own, as well as if you're looking at transits, how you can look this up. So, first and foremost, what is an aspect? Well, you guys might have seen me put this on my Instagram some time ago. And I made this really cool graphic that I feel like really speaks volumes to just what the aspects are. And these are major aspects. So these are ones that you will often hear astrologers talk about. There are minor ones, and we do have them in our chart. I'll show you what they look like when I pull up the chart. But this is the place that you want to start. Here's a couple things that I've noticed. Number one, aspects take a lot of energy and time to understand. There is no way I still have to look up what do these aspects mean. I'm getting better at understanding the language around them because I have the foundation pretty set in place. But there's no sense jumping ahead to minor aspects when you don't fully have your major aspects down pat, in my personal opinion. Now, if you're someone who has a lot of minor aspects in your chart, this is probably going to be different for you. Like maybe you are more called to learn about the minor aspects, which is totally okay. I just feel like when we are starting with astrology, learning bit by bit, like sandwich piece by sandwich piece, is really helpful and very important. And the aspects are no different. So these are the major ones that we work with, which we're going to talk about today. Now, I'll give you some tips and tricks too on how I find these in the chart. If you've taken Astro 101, then you would have already learned this. But I will show you some ways that I actually find this for myself and how I go through it. So, what is a square? A square in our chart causes tension, and it's sort of like a call to action. So, if we never had any squares in our birth charts, we would get nothing done. We would be lazy, or things would just be like, I mean, maybe that'd be nice, but squares help us. They're like grit. They're part of our charts that have challenge, and they need to learn to get along. Now, part of what they're doing is they're learning each other's language, and then they create change. It's like tension creates change. If nothing is ever tense or there's no challenges, you're not going to change. And that's where squares come in and they help us change. Here's an example of what's going on globally in the world ever since 2021. There's a square between Saturn, which rules your turn, and Uranus, which energy is like. So these two planets are in a square, and they have been ever since 2021. There was 3 squares between them, which meant there was 3 points of huge like tense time to change. And then there's another one this year, which we are actually kind of in right now. It's very close. And so the structure, Saturn, the new and revolutionary energy of Taurus, both in a square in fixed signs, which means they're stubborn, they're holding on. And there's this like really need to make a change within our lives, within the collective, but the old and the new are battling it out, and they have to learn a way that actually works, right? So it's a call to action. It's like, I'm going to make you so uncomfortable that you actually need to make this change, okay? And obviously it depends what planets are in that square and what signs, right? But you can think of things like Aquarius, where Saturn is in this sign of like structure, really wanting more progressive structures. And then Taurus being a little bit more about like the 3D earth. So whereas like the progressive energy of the Aquarian butting up against heads with like that 3D earth, you know what I mean? So that's an example. Now, a conjunction looks like this, and that's when things are coming right together. So it's almost as if they're like smushed like this. I always say like a spark like comes between them. So there's like a chef's kiss, like they're like, let's create something new. So that happens when they are within an 8-degree orb. Now, what's an orb? That's the space between the planets, which I will also show you on the chart. But between 0 and 8 is a conjunction. 0 degrees is a tight or close conjunction. If you have planets in your chart that are at the exact same degree in the same sign, you have a conjunction. Now, what happens when you have more than 3 or 4 planets in the same sign, degree, 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 either together or a couple apart? Those are a lot of conjunctions, and we have a name for that called a stellium, right? As I refer to stelliums, big D energy, okay? There's a lot going on in that area. Now, conjunctions help create something new. In 2020, there was a conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn and in Aquarius, and that created like something new, right? Something new was taking off there. Do we fully know what that is yet? Maybe not, because it's a process, right? Until the next time that comes back around. But it does spark something new. There's a blending, they're a coming together to create something new with those energies, right? So Jupiter and Saturn, Jupiter wants to expand, Saturn wants a structure. And so how can we create a new structure based on freedom and more individuality and expand this to the collective? I think you can look back and look and see how that happened, right? Now, a trine is something that is a little bit more easeful. We do have to work with it, but it's this just sort of like easy like Sunday morning, like type of energy. That's how I see a trine. And so whenever we have a trine in our chart, that can show us things that we're naturally really good at that we almost like undervalue in a sense. If we have a grand trine, some people have like a big one in their chart, and that's something that they're probably very good at, that they're like, oh yeah, like I guess I can do that. I just never really like whatever, you know. Now trines happen between the same element. So a really great way to kind of go through this and understand is that squares are obviously 4, right? So they're like literally in the 90-degree angle. That's what a square is. So they're between the how to tell they're in a square is if they're like 4 signs apart. And 4 signs apart, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. It's like 90 degrees. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Conjunction 0 to 8 degrees together or apart. Trine is oh my God, what's the degree point? 190, 160, 180? No. Why can't I remember this one? It's Trine. Come on, Courtney. You guys probably know it. I'll put it in the thing below. I can't remember it right now. But an easy way to remember the trines is that they're all in the same element. So if you have, you know, Pisces, Cancer, let's say you have a planet in Pisces, a planet in Cancer, and a planet in Scorpio, and they are within like that 0 to 8 degree orb of kind of each of them, then they would be in a trine. And I've seen people who actually have grand trines in water signs, and they're highly, highly intuitive, like very intuitive, very kind, caring, and compassionate. That's an example. Then we have an opposition. Opposition is 180 degrees. No, it's not. Yes, it is. I think it is. Hopefully you guys is making you laugh. So funny. I was never good at math, but like I'm pretty sure it's 180 degrees. So the opposition is the complete opposite to what energy we're experiencing. It is really important to know the opposite sign energies because everything has an opposite. Aquarius is opposite to Leo. Pisces is opposite to Virgo. Libra is opposite to Aries. See how I can do that just like this? It's really important to know that and start to get it. Now, when you know the opposite signs, you will understand oppositions, or when you know a full moon. Full moons happen in opposite signs. When the sun is in Cancer, the moon is in Capricorn, that's an opposition, which creates a full moon. If the moon was in Cancer and the sun was in Cancer, that's creating a new moon. That's a conjunction. Hopefully that helps. Opposites are like teeter-totters. You got to learn to balance and get along, right? Sometimes it can be very conflictual and like get into conflicts. Sometimes we're balanced. We're kind of just like doing this, which is totally okay too. One I like to give an example of, because I heard this a long time ago. I don't even remember where, but Leo is like the performer and Aquarius is the crowd or the audience, right? They're opposites. Leo wants to be up there, like speaking, being the leader, whereas like the crowd or the collective is Aquarius, who's like listening to this. But when they work together, there's a similar energy. It's about a greater cause, right? There's something bigger happening there. And so literally thinking of like a concert is a great example, because there's a performer giving their talents. There's a crowd that's like vibing hardcore and coming together, Aquarius. And that whole theater or that whole energy is something greater. It's an energy that you can't really describe unless you've like been to it and you're like, oh my God, it was like such a good time, whatever. That's a great example of an opposition. So yeah. And then we got the sextile, that flirtatious energy. It's like, woohoo! Stormy Grace is one of my favorite astrologers. And one of the things that she says is, when the planets are having sex, that is good for us. And I've always remembered that. I love her so much. She's an amazing astrologer. It's very flirty, it's very flirtatious. And so this energy that's kind of connected to a sextile is like, ooh, I like that. We're like being given this energy in our charts that's a little bit more flirty. And depending, of course, like let's say it's in a fire sign, or actually let's say it's like a sextile between I'm trying to think of which one I have in my chart for an example. I'll bring up the example in a second. But on the very mundane, sextile is like you are being given like a little spark of blessing to like use your energy and like go for what you want and like really just like dance in that goodness, right? So it's a blessing in our chart. It's a good part in our chart. And when we get that in the astrology or like a transit, we definitely want to use it, okay? Now, let's go into a chart. I'm going to give you an example here. Now, you guys can obviously do this on your own, of course. There's no like, take your time, take your time. Okay, we're going to look at the chart at the moment. Oops. Okay. So here's the chart at the moment. Now, as you can see down here at the bottom where I like to refer to our table of contents, that's where the aspects are. But where do they live within the chart? They live here within these crazy wild lines, okay? Now, what you're going to notice is if you go down here, you're going to say, oh, Courtney, hang on. I'm seeing a trine. I'm seeing a conjunction. I'm seeing a square. What the frick is this thing? Those green ones are the minor aspects. Same with the black ones. They're always going to be present in certain areas. Minor aspects take I'm still learning them. I'm going to be very clear and honest. Like I know that there's like semi-sextile, we can't even say it. Quintextile, I don't know how to say it. Anyway, there are other minor aspects, but they are a little more hidden. They're a little bit underneath, right? They're a little bit awkward. And so they are important, of course. And you know what? Maybe I'll link a podcast that I don't know if I've listened to it yet or if I found it, but I will link it below if you guys want to learn from Rick Levine around minor aspects. It's something that I'm always, always listening to more astrology things is really helpful, but I am only teaching what I know and how I use this and how you can use this too. So yes, those are there. Feel free to look into them if you want to. But right now we're going to look at the major ones. So what you'll notice right away is the sun is trining the moon. What does that mean? Well, the sun is currently in the sign of Cancer. So where's the sun? Oh, there it is in the sign of Cancer. Moon is in Aries. Where's the moon? Over here at in the 5th house. Okay. So there's a trine, there's a harmonious aspect happening between the Cancer area of our charts and the Aries energy of our charts. And so that Cancer energy of really feeling like, like wanting to feel safe, cozy at home, like more sensitive is trining to the Aries moon, fire and water. So what could that mean? Well, we could be really experiencing something today that feels like, maybe we have space to feel our emotions. Maybe we're feeling like we want to move our emotions out of our body. That movement piece with Aries, right, is really important. Thinking about Aries, self-empowerment, like feeling like we want to go and do something. So maybe we are moving emotions out today and it's coming easier. Or maybe we're feeling things, or we might be feeling something here, and maybe it feels like you're getting ready to release it or let it go, and it just comes naturally to you, right? Great example. Let's talk about a square. So we can see this Venus square to Jupiter. What does that mean? Or Venus square to Neptune. Actually, let's do the Venus square to Neptune. This is a good one. So if we're going to look at this, Venus is currently in the sign of Cancer. It just moved in. It's at 0 degrees. So it's at its newest degree point, right? It's fresh there, which means it's going to feel pretty powerful in a sense. It's really just like kind of like, whoa, like I just got into this new room, like feeling around, what's going on. And we know that Venus being in the sign of Cancer is also a little bit sensitive. It wants safety, it wants security, wants more intimate connections. And so there's a square, there's tension between Venus being where it is and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. Neptune right now is retrograde. And so, we might have been getting more clarity, but there's still some confusion. There's still some fog around our dreams. And because that Venus energy craves comfort and security, and Neptune's like dream bigger, like even though you can't see it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There's a square. They're not fully getting along because one is like, you got to like believe to see. And the other one's like, I want to feel safe first in order to then make that choice. And they have to learn to get along. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let's do a opposition. Mercury opposite Pluto. This is a big contender of the day today, actually. So you can even look at today and be like, how am I feeling? Mercury being at 28 degrees of Cancer, moody, feeling a little moody, feeling a little bit emotional, sensitive, all the things, maybe highly intuitive. And it's opposite Pluto. Something with Pluto wants to be taken out or plunged or purged, an expression, get it out of there. And so Pluto opposite Mercury, there could be a feeling of really needing to release something connected to our thought patterns, our feelings and emotions, communicating, having a powerful conversation that feels uncomfortable. It's an opposition. It's not going to be comfortable, but in order for them to balance out, it has to be done. Hopefully that makes sense. So that is just a way that you can kind of start to look at that. And as you'll notice, here's an example of fixed signs, a square between the signs. Let's use fixed, for example. Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio. They are 90 degrees apart from one another, which means they are squared. The fixed signs square. But this also happens for Sagittarius, the mutable and cardinal energy. So we've got mutable here, 1, 2, 3, 4, technically. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we've also got 1, 2, 3, 4-ish over here would be more of the square today. And so Pisces is also mutable. What's the other immutable sign? Gemini. So they square each other as well. Then you got the cardinal signs. We've got Cancer and Libra. They're in a square. Libra and Capricorn in a square. Capricorn and Aries in a square. I hope that makes sense in terms of the squares and kind of how to look for them. Now, if you're in an opposition, obviously it's whatever is the opposite. Capricorn is opposite Cancer. Look at Leo is opposite Aquarius. Pisces is opposite Virgo. So that's how you would know that. Now, let's say you are having a trine, which obviously here we've got Sun and Moon are in a trine. So that's a good place to start. The Sun is over here in Cancer and it's trining over here in Aries. Okay. So there's a beneficial energy between those two. And yeah, I think that's a great place to start in terms of ways that you can look for the transits. Now, let's say you're going to look in your own chart. Well, you're going to go over to your own list and where your energy is, and you're going to look up here. Where is it in your chart? Okay, obviously I'm using mine. Okay, start to get to know these aspects for yourself. What do you notice right away? This person has quite a bit of blue in their chart. Okay, let's see something that's interesting. I noticed there's a moon sextile Mercury, which is kind of interesting. So this person has their moon in at the 29th degree of Scorpio, and Mercury is at 2 degrees of Aquarius, which is interesting because normally those energies would square. But in this case, given the degree points they're at, they actually have a little bit of a sextile. So maybe this person actually is able to speak about their emotions in a really profound way, or a very powerful way. Obviously, that's something that I've really had to work on. But it does come as a kind of like there's like a challenge between the fixed signs, what they say they mean, right? With that energy. Could be highly intuitive with that as well. Let's look at an opposition. So if you're going to look in your chart, you're going to look for oppositions. You want to look for this one. So moon opposite Mars. What does that look like? Whoa, this person has their moon in Scorpio. Their Mars is in Gemini. One is like very deep and the other one is kind of all over the place, very creative and chaotic. How this manifests for me is what I've noticed is my reactivity to things, right? Very passionate. And then I just like let it go, speak it out without thinking first. Very Mercury and Gemini. And then I'm like kind of here, there, up, down, all over the place in terms of my emotions. So learning balance of I can have these really passionate feelings and emotions, and I can share my information, and I can also, have ride the waves of emotions, but I don't have to be reactive, is part of my lessons with this connection. That's just an example. I want you guys to go through and look at some of the own aspects in your chart and how you would describe them. Maybe look at one that you think is really beautiful. I will be honest, personally, I've actually grown to love this moon Pluto conjunction in the 8th house. It's taken me a long time to get there. Have a little look and see what's an aspect that you like. What do you think is something that you need to work on? And just have a little think around that. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I know some of you are already really familiar with this, but it doesn't help to hear it again. And also, if you have any insight that you want to share about the things that you've learned about aspects, please feel free to drop it in the comments below. Sending you guys so much love, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye.